tell you the truth, I'd never even heard of them before I went down. I didn't even know what it was, Leeds. You know, for some obscure reason I thought it was in Wales.
My mother could probably have went into that Leeds United side at the time and played at centre-half because the players round about are that good.
The target at Leeds United was to win everything, and that's how colossal a club they were.
And we could mix it. Nobody liked to play against us. That's what we wanted. We wanted people to come to Ellen Road and not have a nice afternoon.
It was unbelievable coming down from Scotland and you get into the dressing room for the first time. I mean, it's like opening up a football magazine, all household names, like people like Jack Charlton had won the World Cup. But of course there was a huge Scottish contingent.
This is the story of Clan Leeds, a little bit of Yorkshire that for a time in the 1970s was a piece of Scotland. Gordon McQueen, Peter Lorimer, Eddie Gray, David Harvey, Joe Jordan and Billy Bremner. Legendary Scots who added the tartan touch to Don Revie's famous Leeds United. It was the summer of '73, and in the previous decade, Revie's Elland Road teams had been winners, picking up a league title and several major trophies along the way. But they were capable of losing spectacularly too. In the season ahead, this was a side with something to prove.
We had so many disappointments, so many finals. I was in 10 finals and I won 4. And we lost the championship, the league, on goal difference on 2 occasions, and we were second on that many 10. Never out the top 4 in 10 years.
Leeds United had just pulled down the curtain on a season which was, by their standards, a shocker. They had been humiliated in the cup final at Wembley by second division Sunderland, and the press had a field day with Revie and his players. The headline screamed that the manager would quit for Everton. But he had other plans.
I think it made Don think that the next season was going to be the most important, because he could see his side beginning to break up, I think. You know, they were getting a little bit older. And I think he realised the 1974 season would have been the last chance for them to do anything big together.
All he did was he showed us the press cuttings and the recordings on television of how we were finished. You know, we were too old, Don Revie had finished, the players were too old, we were rubbish, Sunderland had beat us, and that really, really riled us on.
He pulled all the players in at the beginning of the season and says, look, we're going for the league championship this year, forget the rest, forget the league cups and all that, I am not interested.
He said, right lads, we're going to go through the season we're not going to be beaten.
Which was unbelievable at the time. He thought, no, that just can't be done, but he believed it could.
Their time had come. Leeds United, once negative and defensive, went through a makeover. Fired up by the criticism, the First Division was about to be hit by the charge of the White Brigade.
Here's Bremner!
Everton were thrashed in the opening game, and then Spurs were swept aside in a bruising 3-0 defeat.
Here's Bremner! What terrible marking by Tottenham!
Leeds were on fire, and it was Revie who was fanning the flames. Don Revie was special. He looked on Leeds United as his second family, and he knew when to be the stern father or the benevolent uncle. In return, he received a loyalty from his players, which was, even in those days, rare. He created a team bond that was the envy of the league.
When he brought a player in, I think he looked at the player, obviously about his ability to play the game, but also the character and personality of the player, that he would be a player that would mix, would settle in, and would go on with other players and vice versa.
When it was time to extend his family, Revie chose wisely. And when he discovered Eddie Gray, that meant another cross-border raid to a school on the south side of Glasgow for a chat with a reluctant headmaster.
Basically, he just says to my mother, I'm going to go up and see the headmaster. He's going to come down to Leeds, he's going to be a football player. So he went to see the headmaster, and I was standing outside the office, I'll never forget it, and he went in on his own. So I don't know what he says to the headmaster, or if he gave him anything, or I don't know. But that was it. I left school on that Monday and come down to Leeds.
Revie's family spirit was forged in the dressing room. Experience and youth side by side. Old hands who had carved out international careers were ordered to look after the kids.
When I went down, I stripped between Eddie Gray and Peter Lorimer. So that was a nice little touch where I was there. They were a few years older than myself, but it was done for a purpose.
Well, yeah, we used to call Joe the Chuchter. He come down. Joe is a bit dough, he's a bit of a... he's a very serious lad. Lovely lad is Joe, but he has got a serious side to him. And so obviously, if you've got that in your makeup, you're going to be on the receiving end of more stick.
The first day he came in with a black oilskin coat. I'll never forget it. He went like a fisherman, and got a bit of stick about that coat, Joe. He'll never forget it. He never wore it again.
He couldn't understand it because he thought he was the fashion boy because he was younger than the rest.
But as soon as we seen Joe play, we knew he had something different. We knew he'd be a player. Aggressive, but led the line well.
A youngster like me, inexperienced and raw, and there was no doubt I was raw in those days, and Norman would have you nearly polished by the end of the season, with pushing you, pulling you, telling you where to go, and of course he was a phenomenal player himself.
Playing at Derby once, and I ran out, and the big man was behind me, laid on the floor. He shouted, "Don't leave me, Norm, don't leave." And he had cramp in both legs. He had just come down from Scotland, he hadn't played many games. But he was a good signing, and Joe Jordan was too.
In a team of favoured sons, Billy Bremner was the golden child.
I think he certainly had a father-son relationship with Billy Bremner. I think out of all the players, that was the player that he was closest to. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And of course, he was his captain and an inspirational captain as well. He had a huge influence obviously on Leeds United.
When Billy Bremner took us across the White Line, whether it's at Ellen Road or Anfield or Old Trafford, Stamford Bridge, those players, my team, we died for Leeds United. We died for that club. Billy was the best player I ever played with. You don't make players like him today.
Here's Bremner.
There was a stage when there was actually 17 Scots at Ellen Road, which is staggering when you hardly get any at some of the football clubs now. I mean, the English players were running around with Scottish accents at the time at Ellen Road.
For over 10 years, Don Revie was all-powerful at Leeds United. There was little interference from the board, and he was as comfortable negotiating big-money transfers as he was taking training. For the players, his brand of hands-on management proved inspiring.
Well, we do this every Thursday morning for the last 11 to 12 years. I feel it's been a great thing to them because it just relaxes them a little bit and gets the tension out of the muscle before the Saturday match.
To have a top manager getting absolutely soaked on a Thursday, rubbing everybody down. He used to massage you along with Sidoin, along with Bob English and Les Cocker, and used to massage you top and tail, turn over, exactly the same. Then you had your kind of plunge, and that's what we were used to.
His talent certainly rubbed off on the team. Unlike today's superannuated stars, the Leeds players were happy to pick up their pay in a poke.
We used to get paid weekly, but we used to get a brown envelope and we'd pay in cash.
Oh, I don't know. We'll just take that one this week.
Oh, change.
It'd say, when you're picking your wages up, don't forget to go on the players' lounge to sign those footballs that, like, youth clubs had sent in, parents. And every Thursday, when we were to pick up our wages, we must have signed between 50 and 100 footballs.
It's a cliche, but I think every player you talk to about Leeds, about Don Revie, any ex-Leeds United player, I tell you, they'd run through a brick wall for him, and I think that's the way every player felt about him.
You all right, big man? Hi. You're not putting the back of your legs or anything, are you?
No.
Pauline said you were a little bit. Are you groined or anything?
Not bad, no.
I remember once, and I woke up one morning, well, I was struggling all week, and I had ankles about that thick, couldn't see an ankle bone or nothing. And my missus said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Oh, I'm going down for a fitness test." She said, "You crackers." I said, "I'm going down, don't worry. I'll be back." But then I got down there and he puts his arm round you and he said, "Come on, I'd rather have a 3/4 you fit than anybody else, all the usual, you know. Go on, try it for me, son." And you'd hobble up there and you'd say, "It's not too, go on, try that tackle, son. Les, what do you think?" "I'd be all right. Get a strapping on, out you go."
Don't go and do silly things and put yourself out for Saturday. I've got the Easter programme coming on. This is being professional.
Oh, yeah, it was very...